All right, today we are going to tackle something that can feel a little tricky in Portuguese, but trust me, it's an absolute game changer, the present subjunctive. It might sound super technical, but it's really the key to sounding more natural and expressing what you actually feel. So let's jump right in. Have you ever found yourself wanting to say something like, I hope things go well, or I doubt he knows, but you just didn't have the right words? You know, those moments where you're not stating a fact, but expressing a wish, a doubt, or a desire? Well, that's exactly what the subjunctive is for. It lets you get into that richer, more human side of conversation. So here's our game plan. First, we'll solve the mystery of what the subjunctive mood even is. Then I'll show you the one core rule you really need to know. After that, we'll look at the verbs that trigger it, see it all work in real-life sentences, and finally, learn how to use it for those quick, snappy answers that make you sound like a natural. Okay, so what is the subjunctive mood mystery? The biggest thing to get your head around is that the subjunctive isn't a tense, like past or future. It's a mood. Think of it like a lens you put on the world that shows uncertainty or subjectivity or emotion. It's for when you're not just reporting facts, but sharing how you feel about those potential facts. And that's why you should care. It's how you really start to express your personality. So here's the textbook definition. It's for future or potential actions that come after words expressing things like desire, doubt, or feelings. Basically, if it's not a sure thing and you have an opinion or feeling about it, you're probably heading into subjunctive territory. It's the language of I hope so and what if. Now, I know the idea of a whole new mood can sound complicated, but here is the best news you'll hear all day. Building it is actually incredibly straightforward. There's a core formula, a simple blueprint that's going to work for you almost every single time. And here it is. This is the magic formula. You start with a regular verb in the present tense, like I want or I hope. Then you add the little word K, which means that. And right after K, the next verb gets flipped into the present subjunctive. That's it. First verb, K, second verb in the subjunctive. Burn this pattern into your brain. So the big question is, how do you know when to use this formula? Well, the secret is in what I like to call trigger verbs. These are words that basically act like a signal, a big flashing light that tells you, hey, the next verb needs to be in the subjunctive. And here are some of the most common triggers. See the pattern? Wishing, doubting, hoping, demanding. None of these are statements of fact. They're all about your personal feelings, your will, your uncertainty. So whenever you start a thought with, I hope that, or I doubt that, that's your cue. You're going to need that claw. And then the subjunctive. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's get our hands dirty and see this rule in action. We've got our formula, we've got our trigger verbs. Let's put them together and see how they work in some actual sentences. Let's start with a classic, espero, I hope. That's our trigger verb. So what happens next? The verb to be, which is normally está for the weather, gets switched into its subjunctive form, esteja. See? Espero que esteja. It follows the formula perfectly. Let's try another one, this time with doubt. Our trigger is duvido, I doubt. That's our signal. So the verb ter, to have, shifts from the normal thing to the subjunctive tenha. Duvido que tenha. You see? It's the same exact pattern. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, the subjunctive isn't just for quiet hopes and doubts. It's for powerful stuff too, like making a demand. The verb exijo, I demand, is a really strong trigger. It forces that next verb, contar, to become contem in the subjunctive. You're not stating a fact, you're trying to make something a fact. And here's one you will use all the time in everyday chats. Prefiro, I prefer. It's your opinion, your preference, not a universal truth. And that triggers the verb vir, to come, to change into its subjunctive form. Venham, prefiro que venham. This structure is just so common and useful. Okay, but you know, we don't always talk in long, full sentences. And one of the coolest things about the subjunctive is how it lets you give these really quick, natural, and emotionally smart answers in a real conversation. Let's look at this shortcut. Check this out. Someone asks, do you think they're coming? That's a question about facts. But your answer isn't about facts, it's about hope. So instead of a long reply, you just say, espero que venham. That subjunctive venham packs all the meaning and feeling into just one word. It's so efficient. Here's another great example. The question is straight up, is she lying? But the answer expresses this feeling of fear or suspicion. The trigger receio, I'm afraid that, flips está to the subjunctive esteja. It's so much more nuanced than just saying yes. It says, I think so, and I really don't like it. And one last time, just to hammer it home. Your friend asks, think I can make it on time? To show your doubt, you just pull out the trigger duvido que, and that flips consigo to the subjunctive consigas. It's direct, it's conversational, and it's a perfect real-world use of our core rule. So there you have it. The subjunctive isn't some terrifying grammatical monster. It's a tool. It's a tool that lets you express all the interesting stuff, your hopes, your fears, your doubts, your wishes. It really is the next level of communication in Portuguese. So the only real question left is, what do you hope you learn next?